All right, y'all. So welcome back to our office hours. We have a special guest. Outpost Frank is joining us today. I'm gonna get to introducing him, but before we dive into that, I want to share what we're gonna be diving into, which is something I see quite commonly in the coaching arena. It's not a lack of information. You know what to do. It's a matter of the implementation. We're going to go over a formula I found extremely effective and see time and time again becomes impactful in the coaching sphere and in my own life. And then also I put out the bat signal for Outpost Frank to kind of join us and to just have someone to bounce this off of. So I'm really grateful for Frank, for you tagging in on this. And then at the end, I'll also make some time for some questions if you guys want to put things in the comments. If you guys end up watching the replay, feel free to go into the comments. We will circle back and get into those. And then if there is enough time, maybe I'll do some like product features here on Amazon Live and our TikTok side of things. But with that being said, Frank, thanks for joining us. And before we dive into the topic, I figured I'd just take a moment to let you share honestly a little bit about your own like social media. We got Outpost Frank on YouTube as well as on all other social media. So I'd love for you to like share that really quickly, just putting you on the spot here. Where can people find you first and foremost?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. So people can find me on all social media, TikTok coming soon. So mainly Instagram and YouTube.
Beautiful. And again, I'm going to put this in the link. So we're going to go through again, as anyone that's watched my stuff, you guys know I'm going to share some data. I'm going to share some peer-reviewed journals. We're going to talk through again the actionables and then highlight at the end of this, what can you take away? Because ironically, while we're talking about information, it's really going back to the actionables around this, because you can have all the information in the world and it's really not an information problem from my experience, not even necessarily a problem. It's not a lack of information. It's a lack of having a clear, intentional plan and then ultimately accountability. And one thing I wanted to share with that, I have a kind of test for everyone. It's not ready yet. I didn't have it up in time on our live, but I have a new planner. We have the LOF planner I've been working on for a while that has a combination of, I've been using it in like my mind around like ADHD oriented components. So we have reward mechanisms and points in there, but I also have it just for the 100-day. It ties really nicely into our 100-day coaching plan. So I'm going to have that up next week because I was really grateful to see all 3 of our books we had free on our Kindle editions. Thank you everyone for the support. They were all in the top 100 for their categories. Our slow cooker was number 1 and our barbecue was number 1. And then our 28-day reset was, I think, top 30, top 25 for its categories. So really appreciate the support. And then I believe we have about 4 to 6 more bands left. If you guys want to get a set of our resistance bands, I think we have 4 or 5 of those left. Then we have new inventory coming, but the price is going to bump back up. I just wanted to like clear out some inventory and share that with you guys. So with that being said, this is all the stuff you can use to take action, but let's actually talk about action. I like kind of want to start with, if that's something you guys can relate to in the chat, in the comments, let us know, like, do you feel like you have a lack of information, or do you think you have a lack of clarity and maybe accountability and planning? Specifically for you, Frank, I'm curious, kind of that same question is, what is your experience when it comes to this information versus action dynamic? Do you feel like there's times where, and maybe it's true that you feel like in certain areas you don't have enough information? I'm just genuinely curious your experience.
Yeah, so information versus action. In this day and age, right, we have more information than we know what to do with. So it's really taking what's valuable, breaking it down, and not being afraid to put it into action. Likely that new information is going to have us push beyond our comfort zone. So it's, taking that information, processing it, and just not being afraid to use it.
Yeah, I think to your point, and that's I think a key word. You just use their fear, and something I talk about. Ironically, I was telling you, Frank, I was on with one of my coaches before this, which actually like caused like a 5 or 10 minute delay here, and we were just working through some things. And there's this theme we talk about, and Carrie and I talk about quite a bit, is the idea of a lot of times it's a choice between love and fear. If we boil down all our choices, ultimately is it a choice of love or is it a choice of fear? And I won't go too far into the weeds of that, but I appreciate the idea of fear can be a really powerful component. And one of the things I wanted to use is, again, like being able to have an idea of what we can take action with, especially even in the face of fear, and be able to kind of reframe something. And before I dive into that, I want to share kind of again, I love numbers and I love peer-reviewed journals. And one of the things I wanted to share in a kind of like cross analysis that comes when you do like a meta-analysis across many, many categories, of tying a couple of things together. So why we may know what to do, but we just don't do it. And then in the past, we're talking about the idea of recovery in like not only like physical recovery, but also like mental recovery, and being able to implement and take action on things like mobility, for example, to help prevent injury, to be able to think about using systems instead of just relying on motivation, and being able to rebuild when things have maybe not necessarily worked out the way we want. And the point of all of this is like having first the layer of awareness to all of it. And the formula I, again, will use, and you'll hear me reference time and time again, is awareness plus intention plus action plus accountability will equal results. So the first thing I wanted to like bring up is that level of awareness, and a particular study showing that chronic stress will elevate our cortisol levels, which will ultimately impact and impair our prefrontal cortex. That's a bunch of fancy words. What does that actually mean? So that means when we're stressed out, first being aware that we're stressed, that can help us understand that the front part of our brain, the logical part of our brain, the part that's responsible for organization, the part that's responsible for executive function, the part that's going to help us be impulsively controlled. So not eating snacks at 2 a.m. I'm projecting my own experience here. If you are stressed or even if you're getting less sleep, that part of your brain is not going to be as active. So if we're aware of that, we can then do something about it. But if you're unaware that that part is even a component, you're going to blame it on motivation. We're going to create a story that, oh, I'm just not disciplined. I'm not motivated. I must suck, so on and so forth. So I wanted to just share that to start as a talking point, and even think to, again, I go back to like, now that you're here, it's awesome, Frank, to like balance ideas and see your own experience with awareness first and foremost. And again, I see you guys in the chat, and I'll say hey, and also just like appreciate what you guys are sharing. If you do have questions, let us know. And if you can relate to this stuff, it's helpful too. So going back to you though, Frank, being able to have awareness, especially like we think about the stress component. And does that maybe hold true for you? I'm making it like, I personally know it probably does, but I'm just curious your experience of like when you're stressed out, realizing that maybe logic and executive function and certain aspects of memory may not just be online as easily.
Oh yeah, definitely. But being aware, got to be aware of that. So the stress is going to be there. Life happens, events happen, but just kind of realizing what's happening, right? And having those systems in place to kind of support your own growth through these events. Just awareness, awareness, awareness. I know we keep going back to that word, and it's often difficult to find that awareness. Yeah. I would say most people find it through big life events. We just kind of get caught up in the daily grind, the daily this, the daily that, and it's these big life events. We get kind of shaken up, and we become aware that we weren't where we needed to be. So, yeah, definitely. For me, awareness. I can give you a perfect example. Awareness really became the beginning of Outpost, Frank. So I became aware, um, deeply aware, I should say, because I've always kind of been aware of like my focus and my anxiety, and just understanding that I'm always trying my best and working hard, and just being that person, checking all the boxes. And there came a point where just it wasn't enough. I kept pushing myself, and before I knew it, I was burnt out, and I did the only thing that I always did throughout my whole life, which was go out to nature, take a deep breath. And this time was a little different, though. When burnout happens, when real burnout happens, awareness deepens, right? You really have to search. Awareness is the key here. And through that awareness, I was able to dive deep and really realize that nature has always been my medicine, my sanctuary. It's been the place that kind of has regulated, my emotions, my feelings, just kind of through life events, the ups and the downs. So that was my inspiration behind Outpost, Frank. Just finding that deep awareness to support us in our everyday lives. We don't all just live out in nature. Uh, Times have changed, and we got to live in the city. We got to work with others, and be around others, and just that can be stressful. So having that awareness that oftentimes is found during those silent moments, for me, silent moments in nature, and just kind of bringing that back to help support you, through life's big events.
For sure. And I appreciate that point of the connection between like kind of the invitation of awareness through like force or through just like invitation. Like, okay, am I going to invite this for myself, or is it going to be forced based on a lifestyle or based on a kind of like variety of things I'm actively seeking out? So that's like a really impactful, and like what it can create too, right? Like, so being able to say, hey, like this awareness allowed me to create this thing that now you have, Frank, right? Like Outpost Frank. And being able to say, hey, like, what can I do with this? And even for me saying, hey, I'm going to take this awareness and create something from that. And that's like going into the next piece of the formula, right? Which is intention. That's what I want to talk about next. I want to pause and say, I see what's up, Manna, and what's going on left, and Noodles too. That's a great name. And then thank you, by the way, come on and fit for the follow. So yeah, like, and if you guys want to put questions around this, or where you see like not only awareness tag in, but also where intentionality comes into play. Again, we have awareness, intention, we have action, and accountability. These are the four things we're gonna be going through. So we look at awareness. Now, what do we do? You can have awareness by itself, but without intention and action, it's not really gonna lead to anything. That's what you're kind of highlighting there too, Frank, right? Is like, cool, we can be aware, especially burnout. Like you can be acutely aware, but what do you do with that? Just because you're burnt out, does that mean you're gonna rest? What's our intention? And I don't want to speak for you, but I'm curious, like your intention from when you're going into nature. For me, when I have that level of awareness, my intention is to make a actionable transformation. And that's where the action part comes in, but being clear on the intention. For example, let's say I go to the gym and I exercise, or I'm going to move my body. What's the intention around, like awareness of knowing, okay, the numbers are, I know I may be not walking enough or moving enough, or there's a number I'm quote unquote supposed to, because there's like recommendations, right? From coaches, from federal guidelines, whatever. I want to move a certain amount. Okay, what's my intention with that? Why do I even care? What's the why behind the what? So for me, it's being an active and healthy dad, so I can pick up my kids and be able to carry them from the car. Or recently, when our dog broke her leg, she's a 75-pound German Shepherd, I work out and I make sure that, she couldn't walk. She had a compound fracture in her leg. I'm able intentionally to exercise, so functionally I can apply that. Pick my dog up, put her in the car, bring her to the hospital, be able to like do like emergency surgery, for example. So that's like where I think an intention part is very impactful, because you have all the awareness, and if you have any intention behind it, you can even take action too. But if you don't have intention with the action, you're just going to be spinning your tires. And that's the analogy I love using. And then I'm curious your thoughts on this, Frank, is like, if you think about, now that I live in the South in the Carolinas, this analogy comes up more, is if you think of a tire stuck in mud, and you're just like, you can have awareness that you're stuck in mud, and you can even take action, hammer the gas, but you're not gaining traction. You're not going anywhere because you don't have an intention to move forward. You're just taking action. So without that intention, it's a kind of hollow piece to it. So I think the intention is probably one of the most important pieces. I'm curious, just like your experience there too, Frank. And one of the numbers I want to show out or share with you guys is being, again, aware and taking action. But an interesting part is having intention, so that if you do hit your first roadblock, for example, a habit research study found at the University College of London that at one point we thought habits would take roughly about 21 days, 28 days to form. In this particular research study, they found it took 67 days. And again, that's not making it right or wrong. There's different experiences here and different components. But if, let's say, you knew, hey, you're not going to be in a habit for a month versus 2 months versus 3 months, you may treat it differently, have different actions and intentionality. So I think awareness plus that intention part becomes impactful, especially based on how we take action, how we feel about ourselves. So yeah, I'm curious, like, so you talk about even with Outpost Rank, that's a great, I'm curious, like, what's the intention even not only with that, but let's say after burnout, right? You're aware you have burnout. What's your intention going into nature? What's your intention with Outpost Frank?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my intention with going into nature was just to really, I guess, find answers, find why I'm feeling this way, why this happened, just what's next, and how do I've always had a big growth mindset, but
Yeah.
it just, like you said, you're stuck in mud, right? Your growth mindset is not enough with really having that intention. So that burnout happens from not being aligned, burnout happens from people pleasing, burnout happens for, living for those around you instead of really truly aligning with what it is you want. And my entire life, like, nature's been that place that I go to. So when I went there, during burnout, it was like, why am I not out here more often?
Ooh.
Right? Why am I not out here more often? Every conversation I have on a hike, every conversation I have at camp around a campfire is just meaningful. It's deep. And started connecting and connecting and connecting and just realizing that I find this when I'm out there, right? But there's got to be a way to find this when I'm not there, right? So just really finding ways to find that connection when I'm back in not nature, when I'm back in, buildings, and how can I bring that to others, right? How do I share that with my family, with my friends, and beyond, right? It's just such a powerful tool to have, to be able to ground yourself, to be able to live with intention.
Ooh, that's yeah, to your point, that's a powerful one to have. Not only the intention when you're going out in nature, but saying, hey, I want to have connection in other areas of my life or environments. And that's what's jumping out immediately. So I don't want to misrepresent what you're saying, but having that connection, I think, is such a powerful piece to it. And that's what's cool about, like, whether it's live streaming content or in person or different dynamics, is having connection. That's why when people talk about, you know, AI, and I think AI is a powerful tool, but I have very little qualms, and maybe it's almost ignorantly, to like, I don't see AI replacing certain aspects of coaching because people want connection. People want to have human interaction and connection. And maybe again, you could argue AI will get to a place where it can replace that. But I do feel there's something to be said about actual human connection that's not going to be replaced by AI, at least not at this stage of the game. And being able to even have that human nature to it and be able to have that piece. So, okay, so we got like the awareness piece. You're aware there's burnout, right? Or like, let's say we're aware of, okay, I want to make a shift in my life in whatever capacity, whatever you guys, if you're watching this, I'm curious if there's something that you have awareness around you would like to take action on or have transformation or have change, whether it's with your health, your mental, your physical, your relationships. What might that look like? Because again, feel free to share whatever feels and resonates. But it also seems like, yeah, like people can resonate with what we're saying here in on TikTok, at least in the comments. But being able to then combine that, okay, cool, we have awareness. Now we have an intention. I know I want to go in this direction, or I want to be able to make this transformation. Now this is where action comes into play. Because you could take action again without any awareness, without any intention, and you're just, again, spinning tires or spinning your wheels, right? And then you can even have awareness, and okay, you can take action, but it's kind of like a bigger, broader scope. But then once you have intentionality with it, you take intentionality with awareness, informed data, measurables, you do that over time, you will start to see results. Now, to really level that up is the last kind of piece. So we take action. And again, what is taking action? This is where we can go into the potential weeds of it. One of the things I want to invite is when it comes to adherence to our plan, that's where I think action becomes impactful. And there's a study in a research study that goes about 50% of people quit exercise programs within 6 months. So yeah, you have an action, you even have intention, you have awareness to it. This is where the accountability paired with all of this becomes really impactful. So a fun data point is people are 65% more likely to complete a goal or a process-oriented goal when they commit to someone else. Now, again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I do think that's an interesting variable to introduce. And up to 95% with scheduled accountability check-ins, a University of California study found. So again, to recap that number, you can have a clear actionable, but if people have like, I want to go to the gym and I want to exercise, 50% of people quit within 6 months based on this research study. So it's like, okay, what's missing? We have awareness. We have that. Cool. We have intention. I am intentionally doing this to be able to improve my cardiovascular health or increase my gains. But within 6 months, we're going to drop off 50% of us. So how do we stack the odds in our favor? Accountability, being able to say, hey, 65% more likely to succeed. If that was a pill, I said, hey, if you take this pill, you're 65% more likely to actually reach your goal. I'm willing to bet most of you, if not all of you, would take that goal. Now we enhance it even further, 95% increase in success and accountability with accountability check-ins, whether it's text message check-ins, whether it's online like posts, whether it's conversations, coaching sessions. That's the other part I find in the coaching sphere and space. Yes, you can have AI and it's a powerful tool, but again, going back to the accountability check-in part, that's such a powerful piece. So again, I want to kind of kick it back to you, right, to see like, maybe think of places in your own life where there's been this formula or where you want to invite this formula, something you're currently working on. Is there something you're like, maybe with even Outpost Frank, with something else? I know like I have some examples that come to mind just from me personally, but I'd love to hear from you as well, especially in that accountability and action combo arena.
Yeah, accountability and action. So accountability isn't always easy for all of us to kind of come across, right? You made an amazing point there, right? Having someone to kind of keep you accountable. And my brain straight up right away went to, hey, we are who we surround ourselves with, right? And most of us don't always have the most motivational, inspirational people, right? We tend to adapt behavior to that of those around us. And sometimes that behavior is no longer serving us, right? So coaching is one of those things. There's so many coaches out there, right? And there's different kinds of coaches.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk about coaching because it's definitely where Outpost is heading. Uh, Supporting others, helping others. I know what it feels like to burn out. I know what it feels like not to be aligned. I know what it feels like to know there's much more there for you, and your wheels are kind of spinning. So I'm definitely inspired by that. We don't all grow up with a supportive circle. We don't all have supportive friends. And as we begin to, let's say, level up, for lack of a better term, sometimes those friends start to kind of fall away. Those acquaintances, those circles start to become a little smaller, and we start to seek more. And that's where kind of coaching really helps. You find a coach that aligns with you, that has similar vision, similar goals, similar perhaps has been through those experiences. So yeah, that's where we're going. That accountability piece is so important. And
Yeah, and I appreciate, to your point, like the coaching dynamic of it. And that's where, like, again, I was saying before that I have my own coach. I have multiple coaches. Like, I have my own, like, I would call mindset coach, let's say. Obviously, like, even like in therapy arena, I have a physician who I would call like my medical coach. And then I have my actual like fitness coaches that create our programs. I have a physical therapist, so that's coaching in like my rehab space. When I do like martial arts, I have a coach there. And having these places and pieces to put it all together to have that support and to be able to also, that's like, from my experience, any coach that's, to me, worth their like coaching investment, or their coaching kind of like gravity would be utilizing some sense of this formula, be utilizing a clear intention plan, be bringing awareness to what you're working on, being able to actually then offer accountability and be able to refine it over time, saying, hey, what do we, like, I love the expression, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Or if you're not measuring it, you can't manage it. So being able to, hey, what do we want to measure? Whether it's, hey, I'm doing X percentage adherence to a goal. I'm going to drink 16 ounces of water within an hour of waking up. I'm going to walk for 30 minutes every day. Again, I'm making up some of these arbitrary things I've worked with people on personally, and being able to say, hey, what does that look like? And being able to have a plan and being able to then refine that plan. And that's where I love seeing, even like you said, Frank, with Outpost around the direction you're going. That's why I love having guests on that are like kind of aligned in this arena, and being able to say, hey, like, I might not be the coach for someone listening, and that you might be that person. Or I might not be in my own company, but I have other coaches that are the right person. I love referring out for that reason. I love being able to even present like, hey, we have someone to serve you. We have this ability to set you up for success in one capacity or another. And this is where, like, I'll actually plug, like, one of the things we have going on Amazon right now. So I'll point for my peeps on Amazon and on TikTok. We have our bands. I believe we have 5 left in stock. Actually, I lied. It's 6. We still have 6 bands left in stock, where we're doing our deal right now, where it's basically $10 for our band set. You get coaching as well as our app access. You're going to get a coach assigned to you. You're going to get bands. So you have a whole built-in training, like, equipment and system, as well as someone that's going to hold you accountable and have weekly check-ins. So being able to have that is, I think, really impactful. And then, oh yeah, Michelle, I see you. 100% being able to have a team, being able to have people that you can, again, have that accountability and be able to have that. So I wanted to, like, just kind of plug that really quick. And then for those of you that think I'm crazy on like TikTok or whatnot, because they can't see you, Frank, I have, if you want to see who I'm talking to, you can jump on our Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch, and Kick. You'll see Outpost Frank is over here. Unfortunately, I can't get the screen to share on TikTok or Amazon. So if you guys are like, who is Mike talking to? He's crazy. I promise you there's someone there. And if you guys want, you can hop on over. And if not, stay on over here. But again, we got the bands. I'm going to keep those up for like the next like 15, I think 20 minutes. It's going to have a flash sale on TikTok. Here on Amazon, you can get them. The whole point is these are systems that we've seen effective. But I want to go back to this like formula and ultimately invite something, because we can like talk about all this stuff. And the whole point is like, it's not a necessarily lack of information. It's really being able to have a very clear accountability plan. So pick one thing you want to work on. If you guys can't think of anything, feel free to share in the chat, like, hey, I'm stuck on something. We can help you navigate through that. But I would say, think about something that is impactful to your life, something that feels accessible as well. Like, what's the first hour of your day look like, and what's the last hour of your day look like? Those are usually two strong anchor points we can figure out and look at. For me personally, I'm working on the last 2 to 3 hours of my day, because that's where it's kind of 50-50 right now. I find I can still like want to watch TV and stay up and do certain things that make it harder for me to like recover and recharge. So my version of this formula, I'm aware that I still have this habit around watching YouTube late at night or past 8 o'clock. So my intention is to disconnect and to be able to have more screen-free time. The action I'm going to take is actually not to remove anything. That's the one big thing I want to invite everyone is, don't remove things from your life, just add things to your life. So I'm going to add reading and journaling, which I've slowly done over the last year. We're going to add things. And Frank, you actually got me. I got a great Outpost Frank sticker journal. So thank you for that. And I'm being able to use journaling and reading as a way to transition from screen time, and then being able to have accountability. And what I mean by that is, okay, cool. I get to look at my actual screen time measurements, and I share it with you guys here, and I'll share with my coaches and with my friends and with colleagues to be able to say, oh, cool. Like, my screen time was on average 6 to 8 hours over the last week. This following week, my goal is going to be less than that. So then I just share from an accountability perspective. Okay, cool. It's 5 hours, 45 minutes. Or my screen time after 8 o'clock was down by 15 minutes, for example. Or even if it's not, having accountability to share that. So that's an example of what this formula looks like in real time with a real goal. And again, I want to kick it back to you, Frank, to see like, what might that look like for you in like a real time stay? I'm kind of putting you on the spot. And if you don't have one, that's okay. We don't even have to necessarily work through it, but I wonder if something kind of stands out to you. Because again, I always want to invite people to take action from this and not just have more information.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you brought up journaling. I keep journals with me all the time. To me, they're one of the greatest things we can do. You know, having that person to give us accountability, but also our own internal accountability is really writing things out and reflecting on them. The day happens fast, and a lot of things happen throughout a day, and likely in a week from now we'll have forgotten those moments. So oftentimes I find myself kind of just, daily journaling. So mainly in the morning, sometimes in the evening, depending on, time in my day. But there's always going to be something in there that kind of jumps out to you, that kind of guides you down, maybe a different path, or kind of keeps you down that path. But back to your original point, accountability, should be measurable. So journaling along with your coach, journaling along with your mentor, journaling along with that person that keeps you accountable, it's going to help you continue down that path. Specifically for me, I'm expecting a daughter, so my definitely my focus right now is making sure that my life is aligned to make sure that time is going to be there when that moment happens. So just journaling, working with my coach. I don't know if I already said, but I am working with Coach Mike. Been working on my focus, been working on my strength. So I can talk all day and night about that. They're very grateful for, having an amazing coach, and happy to answer any questions if anybody ever has them. Also, not to get off subject here, but I do love the bands. I don't know if I can say that enough, but I've cheaped out before. I've bought like bands off of other areas that have busted on me, and I don't know if you guys can see these, or this one, but it is sturdy as heck, and I mean, probably shouldn't be flexing right now, but I'm feeling really good. So again, thank you, Coach, and hopefully I was in the ballpark there.
Yeah, no, like for sure. So it sounds like what I'm hearing you say too is being able to kind of work towards intentionality, especially to be prepared for your daughter that's coming on the way, and being able to, for like again, our expected parents out there, or for parents out there, that's like a big piece. I'm kind of glad you brought that up because what I've talked about in weeks prior was talking about how impactful it is for being a parent, for being someone that's under stress. I even talked about specifically in a very unique scenario in a past office hours, going through a divorce, going through a really hard breakup, especially when you have kids involved, and being able to be mindful of any stress factor, but especially when kids are involved. My point of bringing that up is even when you're not going through divorce, if you're just expecting to have a new baby in your life or expecting to have children, or you already have children, that in and of itself can impact your sleep. That can impact your stress levels. And this goes back to a data point I was sharing before, that when we increase stress, our prefrontal cortex drops off, right? Our executive function drops off. Our ability to have impulse control drops off. Our logic oriented thought process drops off. So, especially for my parents out there, being able to have a plan, being able to bring awareness to it, being able to have intentionality and having accountability and having action driven steps becomes impactful, because your impulse control is going to drop. It's going to be more tempting to either skip the workout or to grab something you don't normally eat. Or I'll give you a really personal example of, like, let's say we make chicken nuggets for the kids and they like chicken nuggets, peas, and carrots. It's like an interesting combo that the kids like. But let's say there's some leftover chicken nuggets. It's tempting to like, oh, I'll just clean off that plate, versus, hey, I'm going to save it for later. And those little bits of like, I'll have an extra 2-3 chicken nuggets here and there. You do that every single day, before you know it, kind of put on some weight, or some different shifts happen, combined with also a lack of sleep. So the point is bringing awareness to this, being able to have intentionality, then obviously putting in the action and having accountability becomes impactful. So that's kind of what I'm hearing you say, Frank, is like preparing yourself, being intentional with the time you have ahead for your baby girl to be here, for the structure of your day, for the structure of your life, and to be able to, again, have connection while simultaneously taking action on your own strength, on your own health, on your own pieces. So I think that's really impactful, and I appreciate that. So that's like, we're kind of going to bring it home and bring it together for this one. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, I was originally going to have this on Tuesday, and this whole week I had to like reschedule and work with clients and shift things. I'm just feeling like trash, and continuously feeling it. So I'm being mindful of how much I'm even talking. So I wanted to make sure we showed up for today and make sure we got this in. So I was excited to talk about this, but I'm also gonna be mindful to not write too hard. I do want to pause though to see if there's any questions that we have that'll come in from the comment side. And then I also want to like take a little bit of time for you, Frank, to talk about, I don't know, like anything that you think I might not only have missed in this topic, but that you'd like to share from your own experience going through. So I think it's what's impactful is when we have our own experience, whether it's through burnout, whether it's we're creating something, we're doing our own coaching, being able to have connection. I appreciate you brought up before, it was really impactful. So I'm curious if there's anything you would invite for anyone that's watching this, and whether it's because of, you know, they're an expected parent, they're maybe feeling like they're going through burnout, what might you want to share with them? Because I think that's always an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, no, definitely. So as I said earlier, life happens. It's important to have strategies. It's important to have systems in place. Um, we don't have to wait till it happens, right? We don't have to wait for life to get difficult. We don't have to wait till we fall off the horse. Uh, and with that, journaling, right? Just kind of making sure that we have, for me, it's journaling. It's just writing, figuring it out, working it out, and continuing down the path, and sometimes switching paths. But it's living with intention, right? Living with intention. And the only way you can really align with your intention is really doing the work, finding that accountability, right? Putting yourself in situations to grow. So, Outpost Frank ended up becoming explore, reflect, and grow, and that came from my system. That came from how I came out of burnout, you know, how I improved my anxiety, how I improved my alignment with my everyday, just living every day, being mindful, being present. And the only way, again, I keep going back to the journaling, is to really get the work in, and having someone sometimes to guide you if that's what you need, working with someone. that aligns with you.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to again just to like double down on is the exploration. I think that's a really powerful one because I go back to like I think it's an interesting also overlap of like you can explore the wilderness, right? But you can also explore yourself, your own like mindset, your own psyche. I think that in and of itself can be a great podcast and talking point and topic. But I'm gonna kind of like leave it. I'm gonna check in the comments, see if we have any questions or anything like that. No, it just looks like, yeah, some can relate, some just thinking, yeah, like that it's just helpful. And I'm gonna just recap and just kind of like highlight the thing I always like to do is highlight what can we do with this. Again, it's the thing is you already have all the information, right? Like there's so much content now, there's so much information, and you know, with AI, it's like not a matter of lack of insight or information. It's okay, cool. What are we gonna do with it? So pick one thing. If there's one thing I can advise for everybody, pick one thing and be able to have a very clear, measurable plan around that. And then be able to tag in some aspect of accountability. Maybe it's posting online, maybe it's in a friend group, maybe it's getting a coach, whatever that looks like. If you want coaching support, again, happy to support you. Not only myself, we have a great team of coaches. Like we saw Michelle in our comments. She's a great, again, resource and a great coach and a great person we not only have in the LOF network by having their own company. We can always refer out. And again, take advantage of even like the bands we have. Frank was highlighting them before. Once our inventory is out, we kind of replenish it. I'm going to put it back to our regular pricing and like all the coaching and all the stuff that goes with it. But the cool thing is right now with the bands, you get the coaching, you get all that included with it. So I would highly recommend taking advantage of that. And again, appreciate everyone for jumping in because originally we do this on Tuesdays. I was playing with the schedule. We'll be back on Tuesdays for the most part. I'm still like, I actually have an interesting coaching contract opportunity that came across my desk that I'm like looking at, see how it might impact my schedule and impact my team's schedule. So stay tuned. Just make sure you're following and subscribing if you want to see more of this content, because again, we'll potentially have to shift the schedule, but we'll obviously be able to notify you. And then as every week goes on, we put out our blog post. So you'll see the blog recap of this, all the cited data, recaps of it. And then also if you want to make sure that you're following Outpost Frank, we'll have the information for Frank's in the replays and in our newsletter and our blog post, but also you can just go to Outpost Frank online and be able to check them out. And yeah, that being said, that's going to do it for me to just save my own voice and throw it a little bit. Frank, I want to kick it to you for a like final message and then we'll sign it off from here.
Absolutely. So something that really stood out is the exploration. So when I say explore, my preference is nature, because nature sometimes is scary, right? It can get dark on you. There's all kinds of stuff. It's the uncharted path. So my invitation to explore is for you to face your fears, journal on those fears, reflect on those fears, and then come out on the other side stronger and ready to grow, and apply that, you know, to your everyday life. Become who you know you are, and live that life that you know you should be living.
Oh, well said, Frank. So we're going to leave it at that. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all in the next one. And then we're going to have Frank, we're going to have you come back too. We'll dive into some more things and share it along the way. And yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining in.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.